Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Spiritual Transformer. So, today I want to talk about a hot topic that's on a lot of people's minds. It's war. And I kind of want to talk about our, specifically our perception of war. And I kind of want to start with us Westerners, right? So I live in the West. So I want to do this from a Western perspective, how we as Westerners perceive war. And I like to start at World War II because World War II still seems to be a pretty big subject. I mean, it hasn't been 100 years yet since the end of the Second World War. And personally, I was taught quite a bit about World War II in school, even though I forgot most of it. And hey, did you know that Call of Duty started with a World War II setting? I'm pretty sure it was World War II. There's a reason why Call of Duty Modern Warfare is such a big deal because I believe it's the first game in the series that starts setting itself in the modern world. But before that, I believe it was World War II setting. So was Wolfenstein, by the way. So, yeah. So let's start there. When I think of World War II, and I think in the Western collective of human beings, when we all think about World War II, I think we mostly think it's a good war. The idea of World War II being good as a triumph over evil, as a triumph over the Nazis, is always considered good from a Western perspective. Yeah, World War II is a great war. We fought, we defeated evil, hoorah, great stuff. And that seems to be how, well, at least my perception of war kind of started. Yeah, it was great. We fought a righteous war, we defeated evil. Yeah, way to go. But obviously, the perception of war, our Western perception of war has changed over time. And this is just my opinion. All this is just my opinions, and this is how I see it. So, we started with a good war in World War II. And the next war that sort of stuck in our collective consciousness is probably the Vietnam War. So, the Vietnam War, I mean, there's still a lot of great movies, iconic movies, books, and materials about the Vietnam War, and basically the consensus is that it was really bad. It was hellish, actually, to be exact. So hellish that draft dodging became a popular thing. And you can still see that in media today. In fact, me and my wife were watching an older episode of Cobra Kai. And, Cobra Kai is not a very deep show, right? And mostly it's a light show. But even then, in one of the episodes, they had a flashback where one of the characters fought in the Vietnam War, and basically even that depiction of the war was hellish imagery, very dark and all that. So I think in our collective psyche, the Vietnam War can be characterized simply as hell. So now all of a sudden, World War II was a good war, rah rah. And all of a sudden, the Vietnam War is hell, stay the heck away. And those two seems to be on polar opposites, right? You go from good to hell. It's like a 180 opinion reversal on the concept of war. Yeah, war was good. Oh no, now war is bad, right? It seems like that's how our collective consciousness in the West, that's the direction we went to. Good to hell. Right? Just like that, right? In a span of a few decades. And you kind of figure that that would be the end of this story. I mean, you got a really bad war, it's hellish, it's bad, people don't want anything to do with war, or it's bad, let's not do any more war. Right? You figure it should be the end of it because, humankind should have learned a lesson. Yeah, war is bad, war is hell, but no, obviously not. Obviously not because, excuse me, because we had a lot of war even after. And the next war that seems to have really stuck in to our consciousness is, I would say, is the war in Iraq. Yeah, the Gulf War kind of just came and went. But the war in Iraq really stuck in because it happened so close after 9/11. And 9/11 was a big deal. And you can see how 9/11 led pretty much right into the Iraqi war. And the Iraqi war is a bit different, right? Sure, war is hell. We learned that from Vietnam. But the Iraqi war is different because it's about fear and protection, really. Like, yeah, a handful of terrorists was able to cause so much tragedy on 9/11. Well, what could they do if they had weapons of mass destruction? It seems to me that's where it led. So, yeah, at the time, Iraq was thought to have weapons of mass destruction. That's why we got to invade, and we got to take those weapons from them. But we all know how it turned out. Turns out that Saddam Hussein did not have any WMDs. And it seems that the American government knew that before it even started the war. And yet the war happened anyway. You can kind of say that Americans had an appetite for protecting itself. And you can say that. But in the aftermath of the war in Iraq, after it was revealed that there were no WMDs under Saddam Hussein, then people started asking a question, well, what the heck did we go in there for? Right? What was the point of the war if, we were led by misinformation? And a lot of people in the West think the war ultimately was about oil. And I think that too. I think the Iraq war was about oil. But I also think oil is symbolism. It's symbolic of something else, right? When people think about oil, they think about big oil specifically. We invade Iraq because big oil wanted, a piece of their natural resources. Why? So they can profit and make money, right? And yeah, that's true. I think oil is a symbolism for something else. Did you know that in the Iraqi war, a lot of the private military corporations made out with a lot of money? Yeah, there was a very heavy reliance on PMCs and mercenaries doing the fighting. Everything, including like guarding high value VIPs, a lot of it was done by private military mercenaries. And these private military corporations, they made out like bandits. They got rich off the war. And this is well documented. And also the infrastructure necessary for the war made other companies very profitable as well. Specifically companies that built things like barracks for US soldiers, other infrastructures, military bases and the like, and also even for their meals. I mean, like all this, soldiers gotta eat, and somebody has to provide for the food. And all these providers of meals, shelter, and infrastructure for the military operation, they also made out like bandits. A lot of profit from, sadly, taxpayers went straight to private military and infrastructure builders. So when people say, we went into Iraq to get oil, it's really a coded word. Coded word for we went to Iraq for money. We went to Iraq for profits. In other words, if I have to sum it up in one word, the Iraq war was about greed. It's about greed. It's about money. It's about profits. And oil is a really, really powerful symbol of all of that. I mean, if Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction, then what were we there for? Follow the money, and I think the war is about greed. Maybe subconsciously we all kind of figure that, And that's why a lot of people think that the Iraqi war was about oil, aka money, aka greed. So that's what I think. So let's recap. We went from World War II, great war, good war, rah rah, to Vietnam, war is hell, let's not do it anymore. And then, funnily enough, we went to the Iraqi war where it's not about good or bad, just about money, just about greed. Pretty crazy stuff. And now, of course, we've got the war that is on everybody's mind, the war in Iran. Now, the war in Iran is still happening as I make this video. It's fresh on everybody's minds. We don't know what the purpose of this war is until it's over. There's a lot we don't know about this war. It started really suddenly. One minute you go to sleep, the next minute there's a war. Nobody knows why. I mean, it's not like there was a 9/11 or anything to sort of trigger the process. It just happened. And it's pretty crazy. And I think a lot of people out there are asking why. What's the purpose? What's the point? WMDs, nukes, that's what a lot of people say, but I don't think anybody is sure, and I don't think we will be sure until this is over and behind us and we can look at it with fresh eyes that are more clear, I hope. But I like to offer a theory. And my theory is that ultimately, at the end of the day, the war in Iraq is about one word. And that word is corruption. That's what I think. This is just my opinion. But this war... Sorry, did I say Iraq? I meant Iran. This whole war in Iran is about corruption. Plain and simple. And it seems to be because it's just so weird. I mean, like I said, the Iran war happened at the blink of an eye. No warning, no nothing, and that's very suspicious. Already there's a tinge of corruption. I mean, who really wanted this war? Was it really the United States? Or is it somebody else? I'm not going to name any names for that somebody else, because if you are tapped into what's happening in Iran right now, then you have a good idea who this somebody else is. There's a high likelihood that somebody else is pushing the States and Trump to start the war in Iran. And doesn't that already smell fishy? Doesn't that already smell kind of corrupt? At the very least, even if we made a mistake of going to Iraq, to think that they might be a threat with their WMDs, at least you could justify it by saying, you want to protect Americans, but Iran is kind of a different story. They may or may not have nukes, sure, but there's something fundamentally different. And one of the perfect examples I find to suggest that the war in Iran is a corrupt war is in the prediction markets. So for those who don't know, prediction markets are gambling, basically. Specifically gambling sites. Oh my God, I forgot the name of the gambling sites, but I don't even want to give names because to me, these gambling sites are a bad idea. I don't like it. I don't really want to promote them, but you can go to these sites and gamble on war, on things like, will U.S. invade Iran by X date? You can't do that. You can do that on the internet. It's so goddamn sad, but you can't. And one of the reasons why I think that the war in Iran is ultimately about corruption is because these prediction markets, all of a sudden, almost like the last minute, somebody made a prediction that says the United States is going to do this to Iran. And they do. And then all of a sudden, the people who made these bets made out like bandits. They made a truckload of money. Hundreds of thousands, $1 million maybe. But a lot of money. And it's all very suspicious. How did some people know that within hours something's going to happen that they can bet on it and win so much money from it? And I think that's it. Now, whether or not these prediction bets, they are insider traders from the very upper echelons of government or in the military, we don't know. CoffeeZilla actually had a really great video about it recently. We don't know much. It could be just someone working on a ground crew, the chef who cooks for the soldiers or something. You don't know. I have no idea who is so tapped in that they could just make bets on the prediction market that turns out to be correct, and like a few hours down the line and make hundreds of thousands of dollars out of it. I mean, it could be anybody. But the whole idea of making bets on war and having it come true really does suggest insider insights, and that is just plain out corrupt. And again, this is just my opinion. I don't have any proof of this, but it smells weird. It smells bad. The situation in Iran, the entire war, smells of corruption. We don't know who started it, and we don't know the purpose, but we do know that there is a lot of money involved. So let's recap again. World War II, good war, way to go, we're all heroes. Vietnam War, war is bad, we should stay away. But we didn't. The war in Iraq, I believe that's when it's all about greed, all about money. And sure enough, you take that greed, you take that to the next level, and what do we got? In Iran, I think what we have is just a plain old war of corruption, just a plain old corrupt war, a war that's absolutely not necessary. And if there's one silver lining to come out of all this, is that us humans in the Western collective, we're not stupid anymore. I think a lot of people can smell some of the stuff that I'm smelling. I can't be the only one. And it all smells kind of rancid. And that's the change. Our change of perception over the course of all these wars, about war itself, I think is ultimately what will put us over to the other side. Hopefully, the war in Iran will be our last war. Because after reaching corruption as the major themes of a war, I don't even want to think about what the next important, crazy, big war is going to be about. I mean, what can be worse than corruption? I don't even want to imagine. All I want to do is just bring it out here and say, yeah, I think there's something corrupt to all of this. I think war has reached a stage of corruption. And that's it. I better stop before I go crazy. So, hey, if you like this content, if you're not too depressed by now, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace. And I mean that.